His chest had been ripped open, and his vital organs were grievously wounded. His body bore the scorch marks of the lightning strike amidst the torrential rain, cleansing away the world's impurities under the cursed downpour. Long Vuong uttered his final words. So it was indeed you. You hold the key to preventing the world's demise. Long Vuong crumpled like a fallen giant tree. Jujin was not faring any better. The triumph had left him depleted. Only now could he release the tension in his body, appearing devoid of strength, struggling to remain upright. Long Vuong lay lifeless, a mere husk upon his chest. Suddenly, his body emitted an eerie light, transforming into a dark purple artifact. Jujin approached cautiously, inquiring, "Are you familiar with the star-counting bird?" "It took my brother," came Jujin's brief yet tender reply, speaking of his beloved sibling. The star-counting bird, also known as the snowbird, had a fondness for the form of snowflakes, often fluttering around, whispering melodies and tales beyond human perception. Thai Tik probed further, questioning its peculiar behavior. Jujin responded slowly, filled with sorrow, "Yes, that's what I witnessed in Jama's memories. Thus, I must locate that bird to retrieve my brother." Thai Tik, puzzled, inquired about its method. Jujin elucidated that it was the genesis of their world, the nucleus of the universe, creating numerous worlds while consuming others. Despite their attempts to hinder it, they were ensnared, with some misguided souls aiding its insatiable hunger for worlds. Nonetheless, the snowbird remained impartial, guided by prescience. They vowed to locate it, while Jujin's duty was to assemble 50 level S individuals. Jujin harbored doubts, questioning the efficacy of preventing the world's demise. Thai Tik interjected, hinting at a temporary reprieve through monster extermination, providing fleeting relief. However, Jujin dismissed it as a mere delay. Thai Tik acknowledged the constraints but stressed the significance of their mission. Jujin remained discontented, doubting his role as the supposed savior from destruction. The system remained impervious to Dayama's words, suggesting continued assistance. Thai Tik added that the missile would seek successors beyond the cursed dragons, underlining the importance of readiness and unity, hence the call for 50 level S individuals. And especially, you must focus on those innate level S individuals by all means, not letting them sign contracts with those foolish loyalists. You must also act discreetly and absolutely avoid mentioning them. The more you mention them, the stronger they become. Jujin still didn't fully trust the system after what he had seen in Dayama's memories. He always questioned whether 50 level S individuals were truly enough before the system vanished. It kept reminding him of something else. Oh, my dear, he must remember this, even if he found his deceased brother. At this point, Jujin exited the realm of consciousness and returned to reality. Everyone rejoiced to see him awaken from a long stupor. Amidst the commotion, Jujin, with the events swirling in his mind, cursed bitterly, remembering what the system had said before leaving the realm of consciousness. It informed Jujin that even if he found his brother, he couldn't bring him back because his brother was an entity severed from this world. Just like Dayama, he had to forsake a part of himself to enter this world. But Duhan wasn't as strong as him. He would gradually lose parts of himself until completely fading away. Those words shattered Jujin's hope once again, leaving another deep wound. Jujin tormented himself, wondering why. He just wanted to bring his deceased brother back. Wasn't that a simple wish? Yet, he couldn't fulfill it. Ruda stood up and informed that he had finished sweeping the dungeon abyss. Jujin raised his hand to find his body completely normal, but the magical stone of the SS grade land deity and Dayama were still in his pocket. Moreover, Jujin still remembered the memories he had delved into in Dayama's mind. Once again, Jujin ignited hope within himself, determined to find a way to bring his brother back, no matter what it took. Ruda worriedly noticed Jujin looking pale, but he kept insisting he was fine. Suddenly, a strong hand clamped Rin's mouth shut and poured a potion down his throat. "If you don't like drinking it yourself, I'll have to force you," said Noah as the refreshing taste of orange enveloped Jujin's senses, making him feel ecstatic and numb all over, bringing a smile to his face. The potion was actually Fanta, an original orange flavor, so delicious that Jujin licked his lips in delight. Sung Hongjae explained why he did that. "Sometimes, care isn't visible in places you can see with your eyes. I won't let you get hurt, whether spiritually or physically." Wiping his mouth with his hand, Jujin replied to the one who was concerned about him. "Oh, it's just because I owe you." Song Hong-jae. Sweetly smiling, Song Hong-jae responded, "No, it's not that. It's just because you're a complete enigma that fate bestowed upon me. Come on, wrap up, your feet must be really cold." Reluctantly, Jujin grabbed the cloth and wrapped it around himself, while standing on the rocky outcrop. Only then did he notice something happening below. "Seems like there's some mischief going on down there," he muttered to himself. The people from Soham acted like pigs being dragged away, and Jujin thought they had all been killed by Song Hong-jae. Turns out, he had just subdued them, keeping them as souvenirs. Song Hong-jae was now gleefully toying with them. He described the two S-rank individuals as high-grade rubber bands, perfect gifts for this dungeon raid. While the task of finding the manipulator behind his brother's misfortunes seemed completed, dealing with the two S-ranks pursuing him proved challenging. If not handled discreetly, it might lead to conflicts between the factions. Jujin, despite sweating, maintained his composure. "Just wait, I'll get my revenge. At least I have to retaliate against the despicable one who forced you. Even if it costs me everything, I'll drag you along as my cushion. I'll kidnap you and gouge out your nails if necessary." Before he could finish his threat, Song Hong-jae delivered a swift blow to the face of the insolent one, sending him sprawling, a fitting punishment for his arrogance. Taking a deep breath, Jujin realized there were many loose ends to tie up this time. As he stepped out of the dungeon, he felt the oppressive heat of summer, though not this summer. Looking around, he couldn't understand why they were at a familiar setting. Song Hong-jae emerged from the dungeon, still smiling. "Ah, it seems we've been discovered missing by the master. But there's no need to worry, right? Look, Jun and Piss are waiting." Indeed, the mess around was due to their search for his brother. Jun's fiery gaze fixed on Jujin as he spoke. "You're finally out." Sitting there so calmly while everything was on fire. His serious tone made the others uncomfortable, sensing something was amiss. Jujin stood there, eyes downcast, as Jun questioned him. "So, where are you injured?" The concern in his voice puzzled his older brother. "What's with these ragged clothes wrapped around your legs? Isn't that Jupiter's chairman's robe?" Jujin sweated profusely, wondering how he knew it was Song Hong-jae's robe. The tension in the air was thicker than a fight with Diama. Jujin struggled to explain, but Duhan intervened, commanding his fire spirit to burn the debt cloth immediately. Thankfully, the fire spirit acted swiftly, shielding them from further embarrassment. Just as they thought they had diffused the tension, from within the dungeon emerged the Sodom group, looking refreshed. Another group emerged, making Duhan inwardly groan. Even his older brother didn't know how to explain this situation. Duhan asked Song Hong-jae for an explanation, and he cheerfully recounted a tale reminiscent of Mario rescuing Princess Peach. "I rescued the princess from the dragon who kidnapped her. We danced together. Unfortunately, I didn't get to kiss the princess." Duhan frowned, glaring at Song Hong-jae. "What nonsense are you talking about? Which princess was that?" As tensions rose, JS added fuel to the fire. "Ah, I'm the dragon. I brought the princess to the tower. We were having fun. Then the guitar string broke." JS showed JS a figure-8 loot given to him by someone, indicating that princess had been captured. He was on a mission, the first crime being an illegal contract deal, the second being unauthorized entry into South Korea. With his nature, JS would never stand still to be caught. Observing the impending confrontation, Duhan knew a fight was inevitable. Just as they had resolved the tension inside the dungeon, they found themselves in an even more intense situation outside. JS, grabbing Jujin's collar provocatively, taunted, "Did you come out just to pick a fight? Do you want to see this world in chaos, like in the dungeon?" On the side of Duhan and Song Hong-jae, things weren't any better. Even my younger brother, currently in a frenzy, was ready to brawl at the slightest provocation. You know, all it takes is a little nudge, and they'll start fighting right away. Yet he still insists on tagging along with me. Why does he have to suffer? Only poor Jujin stands in the middle, unsure how to handle this chaotic scene. In situations like this, sometimes we don't even need monsters. The dads themselves destroy the world. Noah is worried sick, requesting mobilization of personnel for civilian evacuation around here. Jujin sighs warily, once again having to intervene calmly. "Let's head home. Duhan, I say, but my brother remains tense and bluntly refuses. You go ahead. I still have some matters to discuss with Chief Jupiter. Suddenly, Duhan startles as he sees Jin's expression, the super cosmic acting skills activated. Jin adopts a pitiful expression, pulling his brother's sleeve gently. Your voice, you sound scared. Don't worry, I won't let you go alone. You're the victim here. You're exhausted. You were captured by a dragon and had to fight it again. Let me take you home, I care about you the most, he says with a smirk. And of course, my younger brother couldn't resist agreeing, seeing our older brother's adorable demeanor. Before leaving, Jun doesn't forget to turn to Jae with a challenge. Just leave it there. This matter isn't over between us. Jin turns to remind Jae. You follow along too. Jae remains tense, grumbling about what's the point of following. Jin turns to explain the reason, warning that she'll be permanently banned from this country if she misbehaves. If I get injured because of your troublemaking, the training center won't be able to function anymore. Do you want me to raise those creatures? Just do as they say and then come back. Trust me to take care of your beloved pets, Jay says, pondering for a moment before finally complying. All right, that's why I did it, Jujin reassures. Jae is surprised by Jay's cooperation, unexpected that a little pressure could solve the tension related to this celestial strike. Jin's image in Sung's eyes becomes increasingly handsome as he gains a different perspective on this coercive guy. Noah is also increasingly impressed with Jin. Returning to the Abyss Congress building, Jujin immediately begins to work on defusing the contract for his younger brother. The only thing Jujin exchanged when signing the contract was new eyes. Upon hearing this, Jujin reprimands his brother a few times for being impulsive. You were ready to sign a contract with him, and now you're surprised. What did you do there? Duhan startles, unable to believe it. What did you do in there? Duhan worries, constantly asking if he was injured by that wretch Jae, who couldn't even protect him. Quick, tell me if you're injured somewhere else, too. Duhan shows genuine fear, self-blaming. Damn it, you tried to hide this from me. Jujin looks at his younger brother with a heart full of thoughts, realizing that he was worried about him like this during that time. Why couldn't you tell me anything? You endured it alone and even tried to prevent me from going to the dungeon because of him. It's been 3 years plus another 5, and only you've endured it. Jujin strokes Jun's head, smiling reassuringly. Don't worry, nothing happened. The system has taken care of everything. Jun is still worried and asks Jujin again as he lies down on the couch. Tell me, they also showed you how to save the world, didn't they? If we can clear the dungeons in the next few years, we'll be safe for the next 100 years. It's not easy, but if we hold out for the next 5 years, everything will be fine. And in 100 years, you and I will still be youthful. So relax, Jujin adds. The system says it will help us even more. We have beasts to ride in the manufacturing skills of Myeon-yu, and soon, we'll have your research results. And then let's just rest and recuperate for a while, shall we? Do you want to do something? Should we go somewhere? Do-hyun's gentle gaze met Jun's, who responded in kind. I don't know. Do you have anywhere in mind? Rin hesitated for a moment, considering. There is a place I'd like to go, but I can't say it out loud. He thought, his mind wandering into the vague unknown. Suddenly, he was jolted by Do-hyun's voice calling out. Hey, Jun! Life's uncertainties left little time for Jun to go anywhere yet, so he didn't think much of it for now. Jun looked at his brother with a gentle smile. Anywhere is fine as long as I'm with you, he said, feeling content that his previous dreams of life were becoming a reality. In truth, Jun still wore a calm demeanor, but inside, he was conflicted. He had lied. At this rate, the world would inevitably face destruction. He had witnessed the world's devastation in Diama's memories, and it was truly terrifying. Even with 50 S-class hunters, it seemed impossible to resist. Jun sensed that the system had lied to him for some reason, though they were helping him. Yet that reason alone couldn't fully earn his trust. Fortunately, his abilities might surpass even those of S-class hunters, and he had gathered significant information from Diama's memories. Seeing that the conversation was becoming heavy, Do-hyun changed the subject, suggesting they give it a name. That night, inside the training center, Jun prepared strands of rope adorned with runes, seemingly preparing for a ritual or spell. This could be the magic he had found in Dayama's memories, knowledge that could help him find his younger brother and protect him in dangerous situations. Jun hesitated, holding the tip of the blade over his chest. "The closer I stab to my heart, the greater the effect," he murmured, taking a deep breath to calm himself. With determination, he pressed the blade into his chest, causing blood to drip onto the rune circle below. Instantly, magic was activated. The demonic stone reacted, gradually seeping into the gash on his chest. Jun felt discomfort and pain, but he gritted his teeth, pushing through the ordeal. Finally, the moment of agony passed, activating the ability to absorb the cursed magic of the Black Dragon's thorns and control it. Next, it would be Vicious's SSS-Level demonic stone. Jun placed it on the magical stone and guided the mana around, absorbing the power of the two superhuman monsters. After enduring immense pain and suffering, Jun succeeded. He retrieved a vial of elixir to replenish and treat himself. Meanwhile, Choi CW had infiltrated the prison and informed Jun that Choi had suddenly disappeared. Before his punishment could be carried out, they didn't know any organization was involved. But Choi revealed that the guild leader's disappearance seemed to satisfy their superiors, who wanted to shift the blame. Jun felt uncomfortable and angry, but they all decided to pretend as if nothing had happened to maintain balance between the guilds, which was more important than enforcing justice. However, Jun couldn't help but feel ashamed of the guild's actions and curse them. They weren't helping. They were just playing political games. The real obstacle was always the guild. Once chaos erupted due to the emergence of fake dungeons, the staff responsible would be pushed aside for the benefit of those who didn't meet the standards. The leader of the guild is someone who has never awakened and has never set foot in a dungeon. He holds everything he does is just spewing nonsense while pocketing money and vying for power. Although Tyan is dissatisfied with the superiors, he still accepts such work. He once again apologized to Jun, who didn't blame him at all because he was just a subordinate following orders from above. However, what Jun couldn't understand about this guy was why he only followed orders when he was so strong. He also knew that the decisions of the superiors were all mistakes. Unlike other S-class hunters who either become leaders or work independently, this guy chose to become a pillar of a corrupt organization. Jin blurted out, then wanted to explore. "If you were the guild chairman, it would be better." But Somtu's response was somewhat hesitant as he asked back, "What do you mean?" Jun replied half-jokingly, "Well, if you were the guild chairman, you wouldn't have to obey those mistakes anymore. Because you're also an S-class hunter, so you can use that power." Jun suddenly stopped when he noticed Song's serious attitude and realized that Song was staring at him intently. Jujin hurriedly waved. But all the other Class S hunters hold high positions. Yet Song Tai, with his quiet demeanor, claims that such power should not fall into my hands. He didn't say anything more and swiftly changed the subject to compensating for the incident from the previous day. Jujin felt this guy was really strange. He just wanted to hold a normal position, dedicated and loyal, without seeking power. That made Jujin suspicious. Perhaps this guy had made a pact with the ignorant group because he was also a Class S hunter, but couldn't allow the Hunter Association to continue hindering the hunters. If so, the world would fall into chaos. Maybe he was aiming for that. Jujin asked the department head if he had any connections with the sect, but before he could finish, there was an urgent announcement from the detention center. A fire had broken out, and Jun Kung-soo and others were held there. Jin rushed in to report, requesting Jeremy to stay and protect Jujin, fearing that escaped prisoners might seek revenge and harm him. Jim scratched his head, seemingly hesitant. "Is this okay? Ha, don't worry, I've been fined a lot before, but never caused an accident. My motto is to tear through the wind, leaving the hounds behind," said Jujin as he got into the car and revved the engine, speeding off. Meanwhile, at the special detention center, the high-level awakened beings were awakening. This was where high-level hunters committed serious crimes. They often committed offenses such as killing non-awakened beings or plotting to harm society. The methods here were ruthless to prevent these powerful hunters from escaping. The walls were extremely thick, layered with materials taken from the dungeon, and the security system was dense and rigorously guarded. A building with the highest security measures was used to detain these awakened beings, or at least it used to be. Now, a loud explosion followed by fire engulfed the place. The supposedly solid walls to prevent the awakened beings from escaping had been breached, leaving a large hole. Jun Kong-soo lay flattened on the ground, terrified, as Duhan, who always wanted to beat him to a pulp, stood before him. This time, he even intended to assassinate Jujin, a crime that couldn't be forgiven. Duhan casually said, "Oh dear, the detention center has been destroyed. Are you deliberately trying to escape? Then I guess I have no choice but to capture you again." Jun Kong-soo, terrified, stuttered, "Mother of, this is a trap, an openly reasonable excuse to beat me up. I'm trembling like a leaf, and you're planning an assassination. This crime can't be forgiven. I'll destroy this prison myself." Duhan calmly remarked, "Seems like you've even managed to break free from the specially sealed handcuffs. You're destroying everything, including the seal on my inventory. Is it your belief in destruction?" Before he finished speaking, there was a sweet sound, and the special handcuffs were shattered. Duhan laughed cunningly. "Looks like you even destroyed the sealed handcuffs. You're really determined." Jun Kong-soo, with a pale face, said, "This is completely unfair. You're making up excuses to beat me up, and now you want to kill me. Why are you doing this to me? I'm already imprisoned here. Haven't I suffered enough? Why can't you just leave me alone?" Duhan coldly replied, "Look into my eyes and tell me what you did and what you intended to do with my brother's finger. You should regret not leaving your life in the dungeon that day." After speaking, the tip of the sword, carrying the black fire seal, plunged straight into the terrified face with an extreme look of fear. A loud explosion resounded, shaking the entire detention center violently as if it was about to collapse. The dramatic clash occurred, weapons colliding, creating ear-splitting explosions that reverberated continuously. Jun Kong-soo, despite being an awakened being of Class S, did not give in to death, but fought back to seek his own survival. Both being Class S, the disparity in power was clearly visible. Jun Kong-soo was pushed to the point of suffocation, his anger boiling over as he shouted, "You damn dog, you've really come here to kill me, haven't you? Well, I'll play with you to the end. Let's see who dies this time." He took the initiative to attack, exerting all his strength to find a way to survive, showing no restraint in his power. Indeed, he looked very powerful, and his skills were also very imposing. Jun Kong-soo swung his sword, condensing his energy into the form of a dragon. The dragon's wrath surrounded Duhan, ready to strike, but Duhan simply raised his sword lightly, countering with ease. From within Duhan's eyes, flames flickered, and fiery spirits emerged, flying straight towards Jun Kong-soo. Duhan remained indifferent, saying, "No matter what you do, you're no match for me." The fire spirit conjured a raging flame, burning thousands of degrees hot, engulfing Jun Kong-soo in agonizing pain as he fell to his knees, clutching his face. I slowly approached, stepping closer to press my foot against Jun Kong-soo's chest. Coldly, I uttered, "Now I think it's time for you to die." Jun Kong-soo, helpless, gazed at me with eyes filled with despair, realizing that death was imminent. With a cold and indifferent tone, I continued, "There's no reason for me to spare you." Jun Kong-soo, still struggling, pleaded, "Don't do this. There's no reason for you to kill me." Jun Kong-soo looked at me coldly, then offered a feeble excuse. "You hit me on the head and demanded that I address you as sir. Is that reason enough?" Fear flashed in Jun Kong-soo's eyes as he contemplated. This guy's gone crazy. What twisted logic is this? Without hesitation, I aimed my sword straight at Jun Kong-soo's throat, the impending death looming closer. Jun Kong-soo yelled out, "What are you doing?" But it was too late. The blade couldn't be stopped. Strangely, as the sword struck Jun Kong-soo's neck, a sudden surge of white bone emerged, swiftly obscuring the view. At the same time, Jujin and Gang, who were riding on a large mass of feces, rushed towards the area with traffic lights turning red. Upon reaching the scene, Jim lent a hand to lift all three of us and the vehicle into the air. From above, we could clearly see the raging fire and thick black smoke enveloping the sky, indicating a far more dire situation than anticipated. People hurriedly avoided the dangerous area. Dawn was tasked with blocking the road, and she did so efficiently, preventing civilians from approaching by destroying the entire road. It seemed like everyone in this high-profile hunting party enjoyed causing chaos. Inside the demolished prison, criminals fled en masse, but their escape was cut short when Tao descended from above, activating his thunderbolt skill. His body suddenly increased in weight 1,000-fold, crashing down amidst the prisoners, causing an explosion that sent them flying while they were still on the sewing machine. Meanwhile, a giant net swiftly descended, capturing all the escaped prisoners with ease. Jujin observed Jun, who was still confronting Junko, realizing he hadn't been killed yet. Both of them descended, but Jujin sternly warned them both not to advance any further. Junko's current state was peculiar. His body emitted strange white smoke. Despite how many times Jujin struck him, he kept getting up. Junko resembled a zombie, his voice eerie as he spoke. It's a pity. It's too late to exploit him now. Anyway, he's not that strong. Why did we make a pact with him? Look at him now. Observing the scene and hearing those eerie words, Jujin realized he was dealing with a fool. How unexpected to encounter them so soon. The eerie voice continued emanating from Junko's body. I'm here just to greet you. I'm Duhan's successor, a fool. What urgent matter brings him here to introduce himself? Then, with a slight change in appearance, Junko's body emitted a strange green light, transforming into something entirely different, much to everyone's surprise. What Jim saw was a cute pink stuffed bunny, very enchanting, but what Jujin saw was a safe and cozy environment, something that every individual desired the most. Jujin was now standing still, his face still in disbelief, because in front of him now was the image of Jun from 5 years ago, the very same appearance he had on the day he died, the unfortunate fool. Using psychological warfare through full-body illusions, Rin was shaken. He had to remain calm. He knew this was just a psychological attack. He tried not to be deceived, but then Rin turned into a cute little Santa Claus in front of Dong's cute figure, complete with reindeer antlers. Seeing Dong's irresistibly cute appearance, Jujin couldn't help but succumb. How could he resist such adorableness? Jujin seemed to lose his mind, wanting to hug her immediately. Unable to use psychological attacks, Rin had to reveal his true form. Once again, a swirl of white smoke appeared, curling in the air like a small vortex. Emerging from the midst of the swirling smoke was a woman with white hair, her eyes full of melancholy, her fingers resembling fish fins. Perhaps she was related to the Sea Queen. Phytek, introducing herself as High Triad, the heiress of Diama, she was the mistress of the shapeshifter species. Unlike the aggressive nature of Diama, she appeared exceedingly friendly. She approached Duhan without hesitation, stating that they all were desired by her, especially Duhan, for his exceptional physique and desirable soul form. She wondered how Jun could escape her contract, pulling Duhan into forming a pact with her. Jun immediately stood up, blocking her path. "Stop standing here and blabbering," he said. "Why do you all have to cause trouble for my little brother? Don't you know what happened to those who came before you?" His hostility towards the ignorant Hai didn't escape Hai's intrigued gaze. "Oh, he just croaked, didn't he? I haven't heard a peep about him yet," she casually remarked, looking at Duhan with interest. "Ah, he's just a rookie, isn't he? I haven't heard anything about him yet. I'm just here because there's someone I'm still in contact with," she said, referring to Junko. Unfortunately for her, he had been killed before her arrival. Sensing Hai's suspicious intentions, Jun immediately pulled Duhan closer, ready to defend, but Hai asked, "It seems he forgot his skills. How could you learn his skills?" Her enigmatic words left Jun puzzled. As Hai probed about Diama's death and who could have done it, Jun remained silent, realizing that this knave Hai didn't know about his return to the past. Meeting an ignorant like this wasn't part of his plan. He wasn't prepared for this situation, and it was dangerous. If not handled properly, it could drag others into trouble. When Hai announced her intention to return today without a fight, Jun thought everything was resolved easily. But before leaving, she left behind a parting gift, the creation of a prison dungeon, a gate that was about to explode. After bidding farewell with a smile and a declaration of victory, she vanished. As she left, the sounds of the exploding dungeon gate echoed, and seawater rushed out like a flood. Jun quickly flew high to avoid it, worriedly grabbing Jun and fleeing. However, no matter how fast they were, they couldn't match the speed of the water. A towering wave appeared before them, seemingly targeted at Jun. The wave crashed down, engulfing them both in the sea within seconds. Meanwhile, the entire prison woke up, shocked and terrified as they were submerged in seawater. Jaren rushed to Jim, who had ice attributes and waterproof earrings, enabling him to function underwater. Jim comfortably searched for them, spotting Duhan and Jun being pulled into the dungeon gate. He tried to rescue them, but was too late. When Jaren grabbed his cloak, it was already too late. All three were dragged inside the dungeon. Inside, Tian and Soom were oblivious to what had happened. They could only stand there, staring blankly at the ferocious floodwaters. Survivors were being rescued, but the danger wasn't over. Dong suggested going into the dungeon to solve the problem, but Tu stopped him out of fear of releasing a monster. Their responsibility was to stay here and ensure safety, but they needed additional support. So Dong quickly made a call, summoning the perfect candidate to confront the aquatic dungeon monster, an electric-type Pokemon, and everyone knew who that would be. After the chaotic water subsided, all three managed to stabilize. Jun, weakened, seemed to have passed out from drinking too much water, while the two troublemakers continued bickering, each claiming superiority. Jujin, though unconscious, had to rise to deal with this mess. Despite being inside the dungeon for quite some time, they hadn't spotted any sudden appearance of a monster. Being unexpectedly pulled into a dungeon, whose strength they didn't know, made Jujin somewhat worried, especially since Jaren had been dragged into this mess. Furthermore, Jujin sensed that Hai Chet seemed even stronger than Diama. They didn't know if they could withstand it. Hai Chet mentioned that she created this dungeon to test them, but they didn't know her intentions. While they discussed, millions of water bubbles kept rising from below the surface. Jim remained vigilant, unsure if this beautiful sight would bring any harm. The girl took the initiative to use her weapon to burst those bubbles, but what Jim received left her astonished. Those bubbles carried their memories. Each burst brought back those memories. Jim, like a playful child, kept bursting the bubbles. Jujin, not paying attention, let one touch him, and it exploded, bringing back memories of them as children, playing in the snow on Jujin's birthday. While Jujin was being drawn into the sweet memory of her childhood, Jim and Jan were still searching for other memories, too engrossed in the beautiful memories that Jim didn't notice there would be painful ones too. Memories that the girl wanted to bury deep, memories of that dark day she felt so vividly, the day Jim's parents passed away when she was very young. It was the day her bleak life began when her guardian turned out to be her uncle's executioner. Jujin had started to come to terms with those sad memories, the damned memories from years ago, the day of December 25th, which was Duhan's birthday. Instead of being with her little brother to enjoy the joy, he locked himself in his room, watching his brother through the TV screen. Do notice she was once again playing psychological warfare. He was trying to calm down to get out of this situation when suddenly he saw something from inside the bars looking out. Jujin saw a familiar figure and hurried outside. It was June. He had also come that day, but stayed away, not daring to show himself due to the distance. Jujin blamed herself for not knowing if he had come that day and reconciled with June. If only he hadn't decided to venture into that dungeon, that Jun wouldn't have had to die. All he could do was stop at "what if." The image of Hun shattered, reminding him of the system's words. Even if he found his brother, he couldn't bring him back. This harsh reality besieged his mind, causing Jujin to collapse once again in despair. Don't do this. I don't want this. I want to redo everything. So I reversed time. This isn't what I wanted. Please let me try again. If I could really go back, I would. Jujin's nightmare was interrupted by Jim's call. Uncle, wake up, wake up. Jim appeared, pulling him out of the desperate nightmare, urging him to wake up quickly. We're inside that dungeon. It turned out that while Jujin was immersed in a trance, Jim and Jun were still resisting the effects of the dungeon. The girl was struggling to prevent those damned memory bubbles while shedding tears, indicating that she too had to witness terrible memories worth forgetting. Jim deflated at those memories. What can you do about those? They've already happened. If you can't do anything here because of those memories, then you'll only add more terrible memories. What could be worse? You have your family now. You're different now. You have the strength to protect your loved ones. I don't want to lose anyone else due to my uselessness. Wiping away tears, Jim was now a strong and determined girl. As Bettas was lamenting, Dune was throwing stones at the conference. What else could it be? I'm the family of my brother. Jujin chuckled lightly, satisfied with herself. I thought Jerry was just a girl needing help. Since when did she grow up? Look at her, she's very reliable. Thank you. Then you have to rely on the two of us. Just as they were having a good time, Pikachu, the electric-type Pokemon, unexpectedly popped out, joining in the fun. Ah, it must be the three of us, Jujin exclaimed as if encountering a ghost. Oh, here's another memory. Hey Jerry, hurry up and freeze him. Duhan informed that he had received information from Dom that they were in danger and needed help. With a flick of his finger, Song Hong-jae summoned Thunderbolt, indeed a formidable power of a different type, instantly shattering the water bubbles around, turning them into droplets. Jujin wasn't particularly thrilled with Song Hong-jae's appearance, but rather sarcastically remarked, "Here he goes again, playing tour guide. I'd rate half a star for that." Song Hong-jae retorted, "I also brought dry clothes and towels." Grinding her teeth, Jujin added, "Then give another half a star to make it whole." Seeing the two adults behaving like children amused Jim and Jian, who touched the bubbles, making Song Hong-jae see his childhood memories. What kind of dungeon is this? While all four were engrossed in conversation, the water bubbles reappeared thickly. Jim believed freezing them all would suffice, but Jujin disagreed, pointing out that mana was limited, and these water bubbles seemed endless. Song Hong-jae shared Jim's opinion, having prepared many mana vials in advance. Jim turned to tease Duhan. "Hey, Chief, you're a fire type, but you just sit in the corner sucking your thumb." Though Duhan was irritated, he had to endure. Jujin felt quite comfortable and relieved. Anyway, they were working together temporarily, facing the issue at hand. Jujin quickly made a plan and assigned tasks to Song Hong-jae and Jim. Acting with eager anticipation, Jim used his staff to freeze the water surface, creating an ice path. His mood was as cheerful as Princess Elsa's when she was free to do what she liked. "Let's go, let's clear them all," he said joyously as he advanced, sweeping away the water bubbles under the influence of his freezing skill, turning them into ice pellets falling like rain. Song Hong-jae couldn't bear to be overshadowed by a little girl with bubbles down below. He decided to deal with it by popping all the bubbles above. With a wave of his hand, he summoned hundreds of lightning bolts, striking down with a series of crisp explosions. It was unclear how many bubbles had been shattered in just a flick of the wrist. Even Jim had to admire Jin's skill with fire, reluctantly staying back to create a barrier to protect Jujin from the bubbles affected by Jim's abilities. Song Hong-jae transformed back into tiny pellets, falling like hail. In this moment of respite, Duhan finally noticed and asked, "Why are you here? You should be resting at home." Jujin, irritated, waved his hands and feet. "It's not because of you that I'm here. How dare this kid destroy the detention center? Do you know how fast I had to run here? You shouldn't provoke Kansu any further." Duhan calmly replied, "Do you have any other options?" He was trying to escape. It turned out that despite his innocent appearance, he was just as cunning as anyone else. Without waiting for Jujin's inquiry, Jun changed the subject. "You used the fire spirit to warn Jujin. Jujin, do you have a name for the fire spirit yet?" But Duhan indicated that all his proposals had been rejected without discussion. Before they could finish, Jim's loud call interrupted them. They were standing in front of a towering ice wall, which they believed to be the end point of the dungeon. Song Hong-jae explained that the dungeon was divided into many different areas, but looking over there, they could see everything that happened here, including the ice mountain created by Jim. In other words, it was no different from a mirror. However, it only reflected objects, not people. Jujin noticed another strange ice sphere floating inside. He guessed that it reflected their information. Jujin asked Jerem to try to detonate it, which he did easily, but things seemed to take a turn for the worse after the sphere shattered. The reflected images immediately disappeared, and the air twisted visibly. It seemed that the boss of the dungeon was about to appear. A gradually emerging figure, a gigantic SS-level toad named Bava, whom they had cooperated to defeat before, caused some unease among the group. Now they didn't have enough people to execute a combo to defeat it like last time. However, the situation didn't end there. From within Bava's mouth, something seemed to be emerging. The venomous dragon curse, a terrifying monster with immense power. Duhan and Song Hong-jae both recognized it as the creature they had made a pact with. Song Hong-jae suggested retreating. "It seemed to be turning into our strongest enemy in our memory." Dujin turned pale. "Because the strongest entity I've ever encountered is Toy Take, a superhuman entity with immeasurable strength. He remembered that the venomous dragon lord was unleashing something from within. It was indeed Toitik, the one who had weakened, yet in this crucial moment they remembered the strongest enemy they had ever faced. This phenomenon was surely a bit ominous. Sung Hung Jet sneered, I wonder whose memory it comes from. Toitik, indeed, is the last resort, but in this critical moment, it remembers the strongest opponent I've ever encountered. This fin was surely sparingly used. Dujin stood aside, sweating profusely, his mouth as if holding a grain of rice. Jim recognized the fishman, with a similar earring to his own, a super-powerful entity, a fabricated passage emerging from a fake state, so unreasonable that it attacked Jujin's group at once. With just a light wave of his hand, Jujin created a tidal wave dozens of meters high, crashing down on the fleeing group. But that wasn't the end of it, as the wave continued to pursue them relentlessly, writhing like a water dragon waiting to devour its prey. Duhan quickly ordered the fire spirit to intervene. Although it was just a minor spirit, its fire was extraordinary. A large flame erupted, halting the approaching wave. When met with the fire spirit's flames, all the water vaporized rapidly. Even Jujin was surprised by the power of this tiny spirit. Duhan took the opportunity to give it a name, Spicy Crunchy Snack. This time, it didn't object, probably because he hadn't given it any silly names. The fire spirit extinguished its flames, and the water rushed in to engulf the group. Jim had to use the power of ice to create an ice wall to block the aggressive wave. However, Germ's ice barrier kept breaking if used continuously, and eventually even Germ's mana was running low. Compared to Toitik, Jim's efforts seemed futile as Toitik relentlessly wielded her staff, conjuring wave after wave of tsunami attacks, leaving Jim struggling to defend himself. It seemed inevitable that death was looming close. Indeed, humans often spoke the truth when facing death. Thank you, Jujin, for taking care of me, Jim expressed sincerely. I don't hate you, even though you, Captain Jupiter, are handsome. Farewell. Let's meet in another world, hopefully without dungeons. Just as Jim finished denying, the ice barriers shattered into pieces. However, they were saved by a pink-hued protective boundary that emerged, halting the rushing water, providing them with a quick, established protective barrier, creating a safe space for the group. No one knew where this boundary came from. The system remained silent. Hello, my dear, the system finally spoke. Are you all right? We had to open a gateway to bring you here immediately upon noticing their interference. Jujin quickly embraced the system's virtual presence for assistance. The system explained that the dungeon was created as a gift by an inheritor for him. Jujin was surprised by these unfamiliar entities, but seeing Duhan's lack of reaction assured him of safety. Both the system and Toitik revealed that the creator of the dungeon didn't intend to kill him, but an unintentional mishap led to the appearance of a copy of her, complicating matters. Toitik admitted that the clone's power was still inferior to hers, but against Jim's current strength, it remained unbeatable. Jujin realized that the dungeon, intended as a challenge, posed a real danger. Desperate, he sought their help, but they were prohibited from interfering. However, Jujin anticipated this and devised a plan. He wouldn't demand they fight, but if it were a reward, why not treat it as such after defeating the lizard's master? Though they assisted him, he was the one who ultimately defeated the villain. He received nothing but a few magic stones, prompting the system to reluctantly speak up, proposing an idea that handled the situation. It suggested giving Jerem a skill, the Deep Sea Queen's aqua manipulation, implying that it would augment her powers. Jujin agreed, wanting to support Jerem in gaining the strength to protect herself. However, he still harbored doubts about the system's intentions, wanting to regain control if it deceived him. He believed in trusting oneself when unable to trust anyone else. Jujin wanted those influenced by him to develop maximally, possibly even saving the world. Toitik felt the proposal was excessive, so she requested an equivalent exchange. Jujin, seemingly oblivious, introduced Jerem to Toitik as the owner of the earrings. Jim was genuinely excited, feeling like he was meeting an idol. Finally, Toitik submerged, agreeing to enhance Jerem's abilities. Suddenly, a water sphere appeared, containing a beautiful deep-sea blue gem, the legendary water element gem, usable only once. Jerem was surprised to receive such a powerful item as a gift. Jujin thanked Toitik, but she clarified that it was part of their negotiation, intended to make her less reluctant about him. Still puzzled by Thoitig's reluctance, Ju-jin had a sinister thought. What did she mean by reluctance? He wondered. Just a bit of reluctance. So, there might be more I can dig out from her remaining reluctance. Intriguing. Then, turning back to the matter at hand, Ju-jin continued pleading for additional assistance for Jerem. Taking his staff, he examined it before fitting the gem and testing it. It fit perfectly. As the gem was installed, a powerful stream of water shot out from the staff, propelling the girl high into the air like an intercontinental ballistic missile. The force was strong enough to break through the system's protective barrier, leaving the girl unable to control the torrent of water shooting out like a rocket, causing Jim to soar through the sky, accompanied by cries for help. With wide eyes, Ju-jin shouted from below, "Focus! Feel the flow of mana! Learn from the skills of the Mermaid Queen, and adjust with your own skills, Jerem." Ju-jin continuously guided her on how to use and control the power, but receiving such a large source of power all at once was not easy. Indeed, it was not easy at all. Watching Jerem soar through the air, even the onlookers below were sweating profusely, with some even being sprayed with water. Despite knowing how difficult it was due to the high level of skill required, Ju-jin didn't want to miss this opportunity. He had to figure out how to help the girl learn to use it. Suddenly, an idea struck Ju-jin as he observed Thoitig's Shopee version and Jerem. Fundamentally, both were using the same type of power. If Jerem could see how Thoitig used her skills, she could totally learn to activate Jin's sensory link with Jim and the Shopee version of Thoitig. However, there was a barrier because Jin's level was too low. When linking senses with Thoitig's Shopee, he was almost submerged in water and nearly choked on vomit, making Jim extremely worried. Jin realized that the level of Thoitig's Shopee was too high to use the chicken lure skill. However, he immediately came up with another solution, relying on Jae's skills. He teased that when Jin used his skills on someone, they seemed to faint. He refused, jokingly saying, "Why would I do that? Didn't we agree we're friends? Friends help each other, right?" Jae remained cold and indifferent, stating that he had never made friends with anyone in his life. Jin laughed and replied, "Why does life have to be so difficult now?" Jin wanted to share Sun Hung's insight skill with Jerem to transfer the movement and sensory of the Shopee Mermaid Queen to Jerem. This way, Jerem could see the movements and Thoitig's Shopee's skill usage just as Jin calculated everything to go smoothly. Jim could now fully observe her movements like a slow-motion movie. Little by little, he could sense her movements and how Jin's skills were used. Jin was quite worried when Thoitig's Shopee attacked Jerem, but surprisingly, Jerem was unharmed. She indeed had an extraordinary talent. Now Jim could control the power of the flowing water effortlessly. His movements were smooth, like playing musical instruments. It seemed like using weapons to create melodies and using a violin to play a piano. This allowed Jim to control Sun Hung's new skills efficiently. There was no difference or difficulty anymore. She could clearly feel every drop of water in the world. They all followed her movements. Jim now was no different from a sea god. Everything here had to yield under her footsteps. She was the water queen. Jim gracefully moved on the water's surface, controlling the water in the universe. She wanted to control them however she liked. Jim swung her staff high, and the water around was sucked into it, forming a giant water sphere. Jim forcefully thrust her staff forward, causing the giant water sphere to crash down on Thoitig's Shopee. Large waves surrounded Thoitig, preventing her from launching a strong counterattack. It also caused the space inside the chamber to crack, with water splashing into the sky, creating a heavy rain. Only Jim remained. Thoitig was completely defeated, happily returning to seek praise from Jin, only to find him unconscious. He seemed even more exhausted and mentally drained. Jin was once again seemingly overwhelmed by the water, barely conscious, drifting into a vague world outside. Jin could feel himself slowly sinking, even more pressured than before. Jim's loud call woke Jin from his stupor. In a daze, she was extremely worried about Jin. This wasn't the first time he had fainted like this. The system said it was the price to pay for using the chicken lure skill. Jim angrily shouted, "What did you say? You already knew this when you gave me the skill, didn't you?" Jim's sudden pressure made Jin shiver. The fear-resistant skill didn't work because it was facing a divine-level skill. Jin was clearly just a small girl, but the pressure Jerem brought made Jin feel like facing a great flood. It took a while for Jin to calm down, but he was still a bit jittery. Jin explained that he did it just so Jim could understand how this skill worked, despite the reason being quite embarrassing. However, he still got punched as usual. Jin turned to seek help from his brother, but this time Jun agreed with Jerem's perspective, so Jin turned to the handsome guy, but even the handsome Pikachu turned him down. The gate is open. Jin hurriedly ran towards the scene of the gate of the dungeon. Let's get out of here. We can leave now and then deal with this later. A sudden wave hit Jin, throwing him towards Jim. Are you trying to dodge my questions? Jim calmly sat down, took a sip of water, and had a bite of cake before speaking. Jerem was furious, grabbing Jin by the collar. You interrogate calmly with trust, huh? You're still shaking like a leaf. How dare you use this skill knowing its consequences? Meanwhile, two teenagers stood outside, watching the drama unfold. Jim was truly angry because he was worried about Jujin. The little girl felt extremely shocked and frightened when she saw Jujin exhausted and passing out. She feared that if Jujin continued to exert himself like this, he might end up losing his life one day. She was very scared because she had already lost all of her family members, and now Jujin was her only family, her only loved one. Seeing Jujin facing danger was unbearable for her. Jujin also understood this feeling because he had lost his dearest loved one as well. Therefore, Jujin risked his life to make Jim stronger, to make him able to protect himself. Holding Jim's hand gently, he apologized for making the kid worry, reminding Jim that his skills were still active. He suggested Jim to practice a little. Jim replied that there was no other way but to carry him back as everyone was busy causing chaos, not paying attention. Hai, who had been observing from afar since when, was slightly surprised to meet the Mermaid Queen here. She knew that the balance had shifted towards the fake loss segment. This was useful information for their plan to return to the outside of the dungeon cave. The water pond had become the gate, and the central detention center had almost completely disappeared after the recent incident. It was fortunate that due to this sudden trouble, they didn't need to explain why Jun was here. Jujin also revealed to Song Hong-jae and Jim about the orb and the water gauge being the system managers. He reminded Jim to remember what had happened, especially that skill. However, Jerem thought about those sarcastic remarks, thinking they were all about to die. Remembering what he had said to Jin made Jim feel embarrassed. Sung Hong-jae, suddenly furious, demanded a fight, not knowing what the issue was anymore. He became enraged, wanting to fight, disregarding the others. Jae showed concern and handed a handkerchief to Jujin, reminding him that they needed to deal with the leader of MKCC. Before leaving, the system had informed Jujin about the one who had signed the contract with Jama would continue the contract with the successor, so they needed to handle it urgently, with as few signatories as possible. Hai's death would further limit them. They needed contracts to intervene in the world, so the more contracts they had, the more freedom they would have. Sung Hong-jae quickly understood Jujin's intention. He knew what Jujin wanted, stating that finding the MKC leader wasn't simple, and even if found, it would be challenging for him to do anything outside the dungeon cave. Sung Hong-jae asserted that the MKC leader must be reinforcing the defense due to Jujin's bold move. Jujin's sharp reaction caught Sung Hong-jae's attention. Jujin quickly provided a reason to cover up his intention, stating that it wasn't a problem as he wasn't hurt. There were many things to do, like finding him and dealing with the contract. Despite Jujin's concern, Sung Hong-jae remained indifferent, opposing, saying he was a bit worried, needed to recover debts, and Jujin needed to try harder. It would be detrimental to him if he overexerted himself and got injured. As both brothers were fighting fiercely, Jujin stopped them, diverting their attention. They all turned to Jujin, bombarding him with questions, then dragged him away to avoid contact with Sung Hong-jae. Jujin felt that Sung Hong-jae was hiding too many things. He wondered what his plan was. It couldn't be just because he was concerned about himself. He knew the world was ending, so why was he so relaxed? He was the most suspicious person in the dungeon, as the system had said it was fortunate that the contract between Dialma and Iron Chain was terminated. The iron chain mentioned by the system was Sung Hong-jae because he used a weapon as a chain. He was called Iron Jane. The system expressed slight concern about the absence of the missing link here. Fortunately, there was Ju-jin to reveal some missing information. Koyet was a member of the system. She had helped Sung Hung end the contract with Diama. This was new information that startled Ju-jin. This handsome guy had many hidden secrets, but the system didn't know the details of Sung Hung's contract termination. As for Koyet, she was currently asleep, so they couldn't ask her. All they knew was that Sung Hung Jae was involved in Ju-jin's return to the past, so he didn't remember. This disclosure from the system startled Ju-jin, realizing that this handsome Pikachu guy was related to both the fake lost segment and the group of stupid Hugh. He wondered what he had done before returning to the past. After the commotion in the dungeon, due to once again using the skill to lure chickens until fainting, Ju-jin was forced to rest by his younger brother and his aunt Jerem. He couldn't do anything all day, just lying there playing, enjoying it until their work was done. He was only allowed to work when he was in their sight. Piss spent the whole day by Ju-jin's side, partly to protect him and partly to keep him from feeling lonely, but with so much to do, there was hardly any time for rest. Ju-jin remained absorbed in his tablet, jotting down notes. What he was studying was the origin and end of the universe, a hybrid entity. Genesis both created the world and sought to devour it, embodied by Tuyet. There was also the bird occupying the body of a dew, known as Snow Silent, the pseudonym for the caretaker of the system, resisting Genesis, entities akin to their creators, wanting to prevent the apocalypse. But ironically, the ignorant masses unwittingly aided Genesis in quickly bringing about the world's destruction. Even the awakened ones involved in this affair were a concern for Ju-jin. Among them, Sung Hung Jae's demeanor suggested he held many secrets. Piss treated carefully around Sung Hung Jae, believing he shared their intentions, but a light kick turned the tablet into a pile of scrap metal in an instant. Like Jim and Jun, it wanted Ju-jin to rest, even massaging him from afar. What a dutiful child it was, wasn't it? Despite having no lover, Ju-jin found solace in his cat and dog, imagining Sung Hung Jae's involvement with both the caretakers and the ignorant masses. This was before returning to the past, making direct inquiries impossible. However, his contract with the ignorant masses had been terminated. Perhaps Sung Hung Jae would align with the caretakers to protect the world. He was too enigmatic, his intentions and depths of thought unfathomable. But maybe he'd side with the caretakers. More investigation was needed. As Ju-jin pondered, a robotic vacuum interrupted, stuck after sucking Min-yu's hair. How did it manage to get so tangled that it resorted to napping on the floor? Ju-jin looked up. His curiosity piqued as Min-yu presented a newly crafted sword. Beautiful in design, Min-yu explained it was merely its normal form, capable of transformation. Not only indestructible, it could change shape at will, now coiling around Ju-jin's arm as a bracelet, a stunning piece of jewelry with a blue substance emanating from within, its true form according to Min-yu. It was named Duhan, a legendary class companion and sword born from Mothach's essence, crafted by the agreements of Han Ju-jin, surprising him with the first lev being accompanied by a weapon. Min-yu didn't expect to create a legendary class item. It could nullify damage like Mothach's gem, but with the ability to be recharged by using Mothach. More importantly, its effect lasted an hour, rendering Ju-jin virtually invincible during that time. Additionally, it was a growth-type equipment, potentially acquiring more skills upon leveling up. However, only the Covenant holder could use it. Currently, Ju-jin was the Covenant holder. This revelation thrilled Ju-jin, elated to possess such a unique item. Min-yu suggested making one for itself and others, but it deemed it impossible due to the essence of Tenlip Lue in him, possessing the flame of Sak-lot. Sak-lot was the name of the owner of the Gold Forge. After their passing, Mothach was left behind, which Min-yu used to create the sword. The gem fragments given to Ju-jin earlier were remnants from forging the sword. Min-yu explained its creation was serendipitous, unlikely to replicate. That bird appeared while Min-yu was asleep during sword crafting, flying intimately like a friend. Hipmo described it as resembling Sak-lot when she was young, suggesting its previous owner was an exceptional woman. This sword symbolizes Min-yu's potential, unlocked with the help of Han Ju-jin, unleashing its greatest masterpiece. Its name, Yun-hai, means gratitude, reflecting Min-yu's appreciation for Ju-jin. Man Yu explained it was created while praying for Jujin's safety. Jujin asked why Man Yu didn't use it themselves and instead gave it to them. Man Yu chuckled softly. I don't need the dungeon or anything that happens. I just need to hide in the forge. But you always dive into danger. I don't have the strength to protect you by fighting alongside you like other hunters, but I can help you in this way. So I especially did it for you. Instead of asking why I didn't keep it, you should say something else. As a friend receiving sincere care from Myung Yu, smiling warmly, thank you very much. You are the best. You are the greatest. Jujin received a great item with it. You can protect yourself so those around you can join in the fight. Oh, but there's a bit of trouble when transforming. Suddenly the chick looks at Hai and cries. It cries because it doesn't know how to fly since it ate too much and its wings are small and its body is like a ball of cotton. It flies with faith. Man Yu takes out an item and attaches it to the chick's leg. This item helps the chick float in the air. At least it's almost like flying. Looking at the chick's expression, it's very satisfied. Finally, Myung Yu and Jujin also chose a simple form. A bracelet, teleporting to the Hunters Guild. They are having an important meeting there. 2 level S hunters committed crimes. 1 died, and 1 escaped. At the same time, they lost 2 level S hunters. This is a major blow to the nation's resources, causing management and safety issues in the dungeon. Moreover, the disappearance of the detention center has caused public panic. Chairman Jin proposed a solution. They only need to find other level S hunters, not necessarily foreign ones. He wants to create a training center and awaken potentials. He ambitiously aims to create many level S hunters and make South Korea the country with the most level S hunters. This adventurer perhaps wants to consolidate power and return to the guild. The next day, Du is training. Along with Jujin, they are testing the sword that Jujin just acquired. It seems this equipment has made Jujin much stronger as he can withstand Jun's sword, but just barely. He still gets thrown back several meters. But thanks to its damage nullification effect, he's unharmed except for a few torn clothes. That's enough because Jujin could still be taken away, and those people could torture him in various ways and simply take the ring, making Jujin a helpless puppet. But it's still a great defensive item. The fire spirit is also attracted to the bracelet that came out of Myung Yu's eyes. It doesn't hesitate to use its teeth to chew the bracelet, frightening Yun Hai, who has to manifest. The fire spirit finally has a name it likes, Jurin. Unlike the intimacy of 2 brothers, 1 bird and 1 lizard, it's more surprising that Jiren can speak. It loudly scolds the naughty fire lizard. Jujin also wants Jiren to be able to speak like that, but when it opens its mouth, it only spits out fire. Jujin mentions the equipment management team of the guild, saying they're all excited and ready for it. Jujin also smiles with satisfaction. That's right, everyone is attracted to it. Who wouldn't accept when its Myung Yu guidance is needed? Last night, when Jujin and Myung Yu were cooking together in the kitchen, Myung Yu shared what he thought after a while of making equipment. Myung Yu realized that the system description couldn't fully express everyone's abilities. For example, at Myung Yu's level, he probably couldn't create something like Yunhai, but it was still made. This means that someone can do more than what's written in the system description. Similarly with skills. For example, even if the description can use basic fire, it means you can cook faster, avoid cold, or light up somewhere. According to Myung Yu, Jujin also realized that it had a similar principle when he took on Dayama's explosive skill. But that might be because Jujin was explained about the system and Dayama's memories. But Myung Yu was different. He learned on his own. It demonstrates that Myung Yu is extremely intelligent. He wants to share this knowledge with the Forge team in the guild management, whose skills can definitely produce higher quality equipment than their abilities. Jujin is very excited about this plan. If successful, it could establish an equipment crafting shop, and that would mean a significant improvement in gear quality, leading to increased survival rates and strength for hunters. This would be a technological revolution. Myung Yu, a hunter without combat abilities, has ushered in a new era for hunters by crafting equipment. We need to seek out more people with special skills like him. Let's not forget such rare talents. A few days later, a hot announcement was broadcasted on television. The Fake Awakening Center will be opened next month. The Hunters Guild is calling out to ordinary people. They urge them to quickly register. They promised that everyone could awaken safely under the guild's management. They used very enticing reasons to invite, showing how life-changing the awakening could be. Jujin was shocked by this news because it came out earlier than he knew. The next day, Jujin went directly with Subduing, the department head, to the Awakening Center, a place where ordinary people were awakened safely without facing danger. It had opened much earlier than Jujin expected. The association president led Jujin to a room where they used a psychological device called virtual maze. It allowed the person needing awakening to see a very realistic illusion. When activated, the person felt as though they were transported somewhere else. Just then, a security guard appeared, loudly announcing that the device was malfunctioning and ending the trial abruptly. Before he could finish speaking, he was turned into a snack by a monster, and scenes of the guard being torn apart haunted Jujin. The head of the association laughed at the experiment, seemingly amused. It wouldn't harm the mind as long as it didn't last more than 30 minutes. Jujin realized it wasn't what he was told. The guy, upon returning to reality, seemed soulless. Yet, they wanted to test the machine's capacity by awakening 1,000 people the next day. Observing, Jujin saw the pressure the guy just faced, surely collapsing. The Awakening Center only cared about hunters with fighting abilities. They awakened people by pushing them into the same dangerous situation, without considering individual potentials, resulting in most waking up with combat skills to survive. It was a forced awakening, disregarding individual strengths, akin to throwing a singer or an intellectual into a boxing ring, burying their talents. Jujin knew the harm of such a system from his own experience. Jujin recalled memories before returning to the past. A week after the Awakening Center opened, his team was under attack in the dungeon, 2 of them killed by monsters. Despite their efforts, Jujin was now on newbie, terrified, unable to move or listen to commands, fearing he couldn't hear his teammates' calls for help. The new Awakening Center opened just a month ago. Chaos ensued, people lining up day and night, hoping to become an elite awakened. In just 2 days, the center had 3,000 registrations, surpassing 10,000 in the first month. Among them, only a small fraction received skills above E rank. Thousands of new hunters emerged, but the consequences were unimaginable. Jujin presented his viewpoint, knowing the repercussions of forced awakenings, leaving us ill-equipped and vulnerable, especially low-ranked hunters. He wondered what would happen if someone entered the dungeon without any gear. When questioned, the association president simply laughed it off, saying they could demand gear and safety instructions. Jujin objected, knowing the reality of gear shortages. The president calmly replied that the association wasn't responsible for individuals not following rules. Jujin raised his voice, slightly angry, emphasizing the need for clarity and responsibility. We should postpone the opening day of the awakening room until we have enough equipment, or at least limit the number of people awakened. Despite Jujin's insistence, the president showed no change in attitude. Instead, he taunted, "Are you afraid of unemployment, Hunter Hanjin? More hunters need more benefits for the world. You probably don't realize it because you've already awakened. It's necessary for us to become stronger." Jujin was furious but powerless, wishing he could punch the old man. After the exchange, the president left, leaving Jujin seething. Subduing approached, whispering, "There's a political motive behind his actions. If the number of awakenings is restricted, his supporters will decrease." Subduing added his own thought. Many hunters know the effectiveness of the virtual maze. Once the media catches wind of it, they won't lie about the maximum number of awakenings allowed. Alternatively, there might be others who acquire these techniques and establish their own virtual awakening centers. In reality, this issue is difficult to prevent because they can operate clandestinely without detection. Therefore, we need to anticipate the future challenges. The difficulty of the dungeon is increasing day by day, so we'll also need to increase the number of elite hunters to combat it. We can't do much about the increasing number of low-ranked hunters emerging through the awakening centers. Initially, there might be some chaos, but eventually, things will settle down. Jujin sighed deeply, expressing his uncertainty. Only the strong guilds will have the power to penetrate the dungeon.